Okay, we're going to present you with our policy ideas and presentation for achieving walkability in city heights. And our group is obviously Sheila Dinesh, Leo Chung, Kim Clark, Jetta, I'm not even going to try, Taylor Patton, Brian Chung, and P.K. Iman. What we found in examining the criteria is that there are problems. The city already has a manual for dealing with these problems, but the neighborhood doesn't have the capacity to implement the change. Well, so we need to find the problems, work within the guidelines that already exist to fix the problems, build the coalition to make it happen, and assemble the funding, which is really where assemble the funding to have the solution, which is really where the problem takes place.
Want to walk on this kind of street or this kind of street?
Left side or right side?
Oh, left. Or do you want to wait on the left side street or the right side street? Can you believe it's only one block apart from each other in City Heights? It's very different two streets. I and my partner Brian walked on the University and Fairmount Street in City Heights. We find out that a few of the streets there are actually very walkable. They are very nice, wide, and clean. We feel very safe to walk there. But most of the streets there are kind of dirty, narrow, and ruined. So we realized that City Heights is not born as a bad city, but it can be very nice and walkable with good plan and design.
Can we watch the cooking class video instead? More dramatic effect.
Okay, so I'm going to say that the point of all that was that City Heights has a very real problem. Not the least of which is we're not just trying to put in pretty trees and sidewalks for the hell of it. People are getting into accidents, pedestrians don't feel safe. There's a real problem there. And now that we've established that, we want to go on and explain that the city and various groups have already established a lot of guidelines and rules for walkability in City Heights. We just want to go through a little bit of that. So, let's go.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about 5 ingredients for a walkable city. The first one is good sidewalks, and there's 3 zones in a good sidewalk: the pedestrian zone, the parkway or buffer zone, and the curb zone. The second thing is safe and easy street crossings. This includes painted and decorated sidewalk, crosswalks, a stop bar, a curb extension that comes out, or a median for pedestrian refuge when they're crossing along the street. The next is traffic calming, and these are things that can make cars slow down. And one is like the bulb out, where the sidewalk comes out. Road diet, which reduces the speed of the car. And then there's others like roundabouts and diagonal street parking. The next one is safety, comfort, and beauty. This includes like enhancements, pedestrian lighting, landscaping, trees, public art, and amenities. And then last one is destinations, having somewhere to walk to. This could be anything from shopping, services, transportation, or recreation spots. And then the benefits of walking. There's a lot of benefits to living in a walkable community. And the first one is health. People that live in a walkable community develop independence because they walk everywhere and they create a habit of walking. It keeps you healthy and improves not only your mood but your mental state and performance. And then especially for elderly people, it gives them the opportunity to be mobile. And then a big thing, it has an effect on the economics of a place. And people buy more if it's something that they could walk to that's closer, that's convenient. If they go to one place and they can do all their errands in one place, they're going to buy more. and just go there because it's just more convenient. And it supports local businesses. When you live in a walkable community, you can just walk to your local store. And because more people are walking, there's less cars on the road, so less money needs to be spent on roads and maintenance of the roads. And property values usually increase in walkable communities because it's a more desirable place to live. It also helps out with crime prevention and safety because there's eyes on the street, and which there's people watching, so less likely crime will take place. And it also increases the sense of community and ownership that a place has when you interact with people because you're walking like down to the street to this local store. You know your neighbors and you know the local store owners, and also you form connections with your community.
So now I'll talk about the objective of a community recommendation. There are 5 points and 5 recommendations that within like the City Heights community. And the first one is to increase the land values and also property values by increasing the density and incorporating mixed use and changing the usage and zoning policy of the neighborhood. And the second one is to enhance and define the diverse characteristics and also the ethical and also the cultural identity of City Heights, and also to increase community involvement and empowerment, and also to improve economic condition for residents and businesses, and finally to improve convenience. And within City Heights, there are different neighborhoods and different areas, and each area has their own objective and development goal. First, I'll talk about the University Avenue, and the goal of the future development on University Avenue is to create a pedestrian-oriented urban village, which is to combine businesses and different industry and also high density residential uses, and also to improve also to enhance the culture and ethical identity of the neighborhood. So basically, their future plan is to incorporate and to encourage mixed use in the neighborhood. And the second area I want to talk about is the 43rd Street and also the Fairmont Avenue. And their goal of future development is to provide the setting for the development of an international trade center where ethical-oriented goods and services could be offered to regional markets. And the third area is Euclid Avenue, and the future development goal is to provide to build on to the existing street scale a more efficient traffic flow supplement by walking convenience services in surrounding neighborhoods and to improve convenience. And the last area I want to talk about is the 54th Street and Euclid Avenue, and their goals is to foster further development of a civic area between El Cajon Boulevard and the University Avenue, to incorporate cultural, educational, and public health facilities serving the mid-city population on the avenue. And third is to preserve and enhance single-family development between University Avenue and Euclid Avenue And the last one is to revive and strengthen the commercial activity on Euclid Avenue from the 54th Street to State Route 94. So the Mid-City community basically sets their future development incentives as to revive the community economy and to provide more commercial opportunities by first changing the zoning policies, and second, to create and define the community's cultural and ethical identity. Yeah.
Okay, so we've established that there's a problem in City Heights. Second, we've established that there are existing rules and guidelines and goals set in place by City Heights and various jurisdictions inside of it, and that we've established that we know what these rules are, basically that we know what we're doing. So thirdly, we want to explain that there's plenty of will, there's plenty of support and incentives to make this happen within the community. So.
All right, so this coalition push is not really going to speak to exactly who you would involve, but it's more about the motivations that you could strive within some of the more the groups that would be more resistant to probably the coalition building at all. And for church groups and churches, their motivation would be increased attendance due to the lack of need for parking, increased donations due to increased net income, which would come from people being greater wealth in the community from a walkable and energy makeover environment, and healthier parishioners live longer, so you have a larger congregation. We all know that churches like to have a bigger number of people attending. For the business improvement districts and business associations, which are often against moves and changes to their parking and their other the patterns in the neighborhood, there would be increased consumer traffic, a higher business value based on a larger consumer pool. If there's increased walkability and increased funds in the area, you would have that. Increased retail areas, if you extended sidewalk spaces and increased nice outdoor spaces that aren't governed by the car, there's increased retail opportunity for sidewalk cafes, sidewalk retail, and other things. And there's also lower transportation costs for employees. If there's better public transit and better walkability, the employees of these businesses no longer have to incur the cost of driving to City Heights. For property and homeowners, there's increased property values. A walkable community is a more profitable community. Everybody knows the walk score when you look at a house. Lower direct costs due to savings in energy and water consumption. That's through an energy makeover that City Heights CDC already does for other people who would be part as part of the program. Better livable environment and neighborhood beautification. Walkable streets are obviously, the car environment is not very, very nice. The walkable environment is much nicer. Lower property and personal crime rates. Other communities that have made walkable changes have shown that their crime rates have lowered to both personal and property crimes. And a safer environment for children and recreation. If you make that environment safer for walking, you're making it safer for children who oftentimes play outside their apartments in the streets and alleys. And for politicians, this is pretty important. The City Heights is going to have a new District 9 council member, so they're going to be in their first term. And also we're going to have a new mayor. That greater voter satisfaction equals re-election and support for higher office. And transformation of a neighborhood district for the better. Makes a great campaign slogan. It's kind of a cynical idea, but that's what politicians will use. And then health-oriented nonprofits, which would be probably one of our biggest allies. Be a pilot program whose success could result in support for the transformation of other San Diego regional and state communities. If you can transform City Heights from what it is into a totally walkable community, it makes a great postcard for these people as to what can be done with the proper motivation and organization. Successful transformation from a car-oriented community to a transit and walking-based one. Their obvious ultimate goal is to have more walking, if that's their health-oriented nonprofit, because it's a healthier environment. And increased pedestrian safety in one of San Diego's most dangerous communities. I think that speaks for itself. Anything? And so funding, when you look at the San Diego's pedestrian plan and you investigate funding for walkable environments, you realize that there is a lot of money out there, especially that City Heights can grab based on its location between two freeways. and the social justice aspect of a lot of these funds. The problem is developing an organization to go get that funding and then implement it to other people. So our funding is based on the model of a community infrastructure fund, which could initially start in City Heights, but if it's successful here, this fund doesn't have to end just on City Heights as work has been done. It can be moved all around San Diego and other places too. And the fund would contract probably with the City Heights Community Development Corporation because they're already doing a lot of the things that we thought we would suggest: active transportation, community engagement, neighborhood enhancement, resident self-sufficiency, and workforce development. They already remodel homes. They already put in pedestrian safety environments, and they already have workforce development, which was a key things we want to do. They're already doing it, but they have a lack of funding and a lack of ability. They're trying to do incremental, but their increment is not big enough. It's not making a change at all, and it's not making a transformation. So we want to organize federal, state, city, SANDAG investment and private funds into a community infrastructure fund, which would then give the money to City Heights Community Development Corporation to implement these changes. And some of the sources of these funds: from federal funds, you have the Safe Routes to School program, which is money specifically to make it safer for children to move to and from school. SANDAG has a lot of money that it controls: the Smart Growth Incentive Program, the Transportation Development Act money, the Transnet Regional Share, which 2% of it is guaranteed to pedestrian environment, the Surface Transportation Improvement Program, the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Act, quality funds, which is for communities that don't meet air quality standards for the state of California, which City Heights is one of them. Safe, Accountable, Flexible, Efficient Transportation Equity Act, that's specifically for communities that have had a social justice impact based on Caltrans's and SANDAG's building through their community, which I think City Heights would obviously be one of them. There's state money, which the state or Caltrans controls, which is the community-based transportation planning grants, which is money that can be used you don't have to actually build anything, you can just plan what you want to do with that money. The Surface Transportation Improvement Program, environmental justice planning grants, which is also for communities that are negatively affected by transportation programs. Surface Transportation Program, and the Safe, Accountable, Flexible, Efficient Transportation Equity Act. A lot of these places have different pots of money from the same acts that they control. And then, the next level would be investments. Developer impact fees. If you let a developer build, they obviously have to give you something back. Community Reinvestment Act funds. Banks that do business in our neighborhood have to invest in the neighborhood, so we could access some of that money. The city has a lot of money, but it's very fractured and very small. But if you combined it and used it as one, it could really make an impact. The City Heights Business Improvement District, the Capital Improvement Program, the City Heights MAD, the El Cajon Boulevard MAD, the Transnet Local Share, Community Development Block Grants, and the Parking Meter District, which is in the Mid-City District. And then some private money that's available. Price Charities obviously does a lot of work. SDG&E has a whole green grant program designed to help communities with energy efficiency. And Walk San Diego and the California Wellness Foundation are just some examples of private money.
So what does this all come down to? What would be the end result of all this money, of all this support, of all these rules? There are plenty of ideas for this. As you guys know, we partnered with Woodbury School to come up with some of those ideas, to see what they have come up with and to see what all this can result in. Here's a map of the places that we're looking at to create a little walkable area. And as you can see, that's University, El Cajon. It's like the main area with the I-15 on the left. These are just some pictures of some of the projects that Woodbury came up with and their rough locations. I don't know how many of you actually went to look at them, but here's one. What videos are? Oh wait. Here's a video of what one of the students came up with.
And this was his idea for development / park along University and Fairmont, which would be a block-long development / open space, higher densities with parking underneath. It's just an idea of what he came up with for his idea to increase density along that space.
Okay, and then we have some of the files from other places. For example, this one.
All right, this is what we thought would be. They thought it would be important. They had a live, work, play idea, but the park over the I-15, they identified it as bland. I don't know if any of you guys have been there. It is bland. There's not really anything going on, and they come up with this idea to make a much grander space that incorporated many more uses instead of just the plain field and walkways around it. Which incorporated a skate park and pavilion for a farmer's market. That could also be transformed in many uses. So it wasn't just a skate park or just a basketball court, but it was also it could be transformed into a small amphitheater, or it could be used for events or shows, or it could be used for basketball festivals. And they kind of had this triangle design that he carried on throughout the park, with the benches and the pavilions echoing the same, just on a smaller scale. And then this was an interesting idea for the Hoover Plaza at the Hoover High School. This is Hoover High School in El Cajon. That they identified that students are coming out of Hoover High School and there's not really a space. They all empty out into the streets. And there's not a space for them, and these cars come flying by, and these are very unsafe intersections. So they came up with the idea for a Hoover Plaza, which is like a mid-street plaza park combo, which would be like this, which would echo kind of a pedestrian plaza or square, in Mexico or in other places, where cars would still move through, but there'd be spaces, and the cars would be moving through slowly. Spaces for people to gather. They kind of had the idea of a little outdoor movie theater there at one of the cafes across the street.
So,
Did you go to the alley one? So these are ideas that can be moved, but these are just ideas that we thought were very valid from the architects that fit a community need that would improve destinations and great destinations for people to go and walkable places for them to go. And then one of the other transformation ideas they had was for the alleys. That a lot of people use the alleys to traverse the neighborhood, especially the pedestrians right now. So they had an idea to improve the alley in between El Cajon University with like a test alley project. To incorporate resurfacing the alley with pavers and green space in between, and to add alley housing, which would be like a live work with parking underneath and living above.
can you explain what these?
This was their live work play idea for their total presentation.
Okay.
So they had some ideas with shipping containers and as houses, which would be an interesting experiment put on a lot as a commercial space, I think, more than a housing space. And I think that was kind of the consensus on that. But they thought the space that we would work on would be between University and El Cajon, the 15 and 54th as the space.
So there are lots of different ideas. We got like maybe 6 or 7 different files where there were 6 or 7 different students. This is just from the architecture school. The point is, it's really pretty, but how do we implement it? Or if you look at the money, that's great, but what are we going to do with it? If you look at the rules, I mean, those rules already existed, but obviously nothing has happened. So I think that's why we're here. We're trying to bring all of those different elements together, because it's only ever going to amount to anything if we all kind of work together as a team to bring all those different. There were 5 steps in this presentation. If all 5 are put together, can something happen? So that's it.
All right, do you need 2 questions of clarification? Do you need any clarification on any of the slides? Self-explanatory. Do you need me to translate what the rap song said?
What were some of the criteria that did they just pick random sites throughout the City Heights neighborhood for selecting where the skate park or the projects where the projects would be?
No, they didn't. They went with the idea that they would pick a zone where they wanted to make the maximum impact, which between University and El Cajon. And then they also picked the site where they thought there was the most activity, which featured kind of the nexus between the schools and the proposed YMCA, as those are the most traveled sites in between home, school, and the proposed YMCA and youth centers.
And we've kind of backed up those sites because, as he said, between the freeways is where a lot of the money is. So lots of reasons why. Anything else?
All right.
I'll ask a question. So part of your recommendation was that the CDC would be the collector and implementer of the funds. And the CDC already exists, doing some things. What makes you believe the CDC is qualified, given its current structure and the fact that you already mentioned that they're seeking more money, that they're more qualified to...
They wouldn't be the collector. That we would contract. The fund would contract with them to implement the work. Because they're already working in the community. They're understaffed and underfunded. The fund would have just the professionals to do the planning and the collecting of the money, and then they would contract with the CDC to then do the work.
Okay.
Okay. All yours.